in a slightly different move, we decided on a day when perhaps one has to talk about different things. Where do you go to talk about different things? Well, I don't know about you, but I go down the pub. And there are some pub stories in there, actually, in the papers. There always are. Joining me this morning, Pete Reeve. He's the landlord of the Woodman pub in Farnborough Village in Orpington in Kent. And he joins me now. Pete, good morning to you.
Morning, James.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Now, one of the reasons that we were drawn to you slightly is that across the road from you, there is a polling station where, presuming people go and do whatever they do in there, and then you have a sort of slightly interesting way of persuading people to perhaps pop into your pub before. So there's the sign there, drinking station. Well. Who wouldn't want one of those? I'm assuming that you're setting yourselves up for quite a busy day today.
Well, let's hope so. Yeah, pre and post vote pints, and we're also doing a couple of little bits as always. We have a straw poll, as in a straw poll.
Yes, so you have straws and they presumably stick them in a glass, which is whichever one you want. Look at that, you see.
And a napkin poll as well. We try and cover all the bases.
Oh, lovely. Well, you've really gone very advanced there with all of that. That's marvellous. And so I suppose the other thing is that because a lot of schools up and down the country, they'll be disrupted because schools are being turned into polling stations. So children are off school today, are they?
Yep. My two kids are upstairs and under strict orders not to disturb me until after we finish today.
Righto, okay, excellent. Hang on a second. Fred the dog.
Fred the dog, at the moment, he's being very quiet, which is good. And I've shut the door so that Kevin the cat can't pay a visit as well.
Oh, my God. Hang on a second. So Fred the dog is what sort of dog?
A chocolate Labrador. 3 years old and mad as a badger.
Okay, excellent. Lovely. Well, then that's super. I'm hoping that Fred the dog will actually make an appearance at some point during our discussions. Anyway, let's see what we can do with the papers, and then also I have promised that I will come to some more phone calls and things and elsewhere. So as you might imagine, the front pages are focusing on the politics quite a lot. Some are pinning their allegiance to one way or another. The only newspaper that says that it won't is the newspaper says the only UK national newspaper that has never supported a political party and never will. The Times does focus on what they think the prospect might be. Meanwhile, Joe Biden considering an exit, says Democrat President Biden weighing up whether to stay in the race to win the second term, according to an ally. I mean, I don't believe in being ageist, but I do believe in being practical. I mean, if, for example, you were 61 and had some kind of debilitating, illness, or if you're 81 like Joe Biden, or if you're 103, if you're not fit for purpose, you're not fit for purpose. And I don't know. My advice to Biden would be: you've been lucky to be in there for 4 years. Move on.
Yeah, you've got to think about your capabilities. Joe's 81, Donald Trump's 78, but Attenborough, who's still a lord here, he's 98, and I'd rather he comes across as far more capable, shall we say,
yes,
than our choice in America.
Yeah, quite extraordinary. Meanwhile, I've been talking also about Jim Ratcliffe. He's shelved his plans for the Ineos automotive business to build an electric vehicle. Are you an electric car fan, Pete, or is that not for you?
I'm not. I'm still a bit of a petrol head. I think we need to make a change to the way cars are run. I'm not sure electric is the answer long term. It seems to have been pushed down our throat as a quick fix. And all we seem to be doing is moving any potential pollution issues just to other countries. I think we should be investing far more in nitrogen or other alternatives. Electric's a quick fix, but I'm not sure it's the future.
I think hydrogen is the alternative with the hydrogen fuel cells, all those sort of things, and all the only output I think there is water. Daily Mirror, they give you their view on where they'd like to vote, and funnily enough, out that same building, the Daily Express. So one of them is saying vote one way, and the other one saying vote the other. Meanwhile, the Financial Times talks about what may happen politically, but also they talk about Anxious Democrat supporters press Biden to step aside for the next generation. Daily Mail gives you their take on the election, as does the Daily Star. They also talk about the missing teenager Jay, the riddle of the Rolex, that story. Now here's a story for you. I know that you've selected the Daily Star, and we'll come on to the story that you've selected from them. However, page 4 and 5, I want to know whether this is true. Jude Bellingham's last gasp wonder goal to keep England's Euro 2024 dream alive could save the British boozer. Is there any truth in that?
There will certainly be some venues that will have some extra bonus days. You know, an early knockout of any tournament always hits trade. A win, we're through to the next game. It's another Saturday or a Tuesday or whatever where we get some bums on seats watching the football. Some of the figures that they quote in the papers about quite how much beer we're going to sell, I think is another matter. But yeah, everything helps.
The last 16 clash into extra time, meaning 2 million more pints were sold across 35,000 venues.
Yeah, you break that down, and it's maybe not quite as many, and I think it's a bit of an overestimate.
No. Well, here we go. A spokesman for Market Watch, which published the study, said England games had driven an additional 203 pints per pub.
Yeah, that's a lot of extra barrels. Certainly, I mean, we're not particularly a sport-related pub. Some pubs have seen a massive influx in trade. But there's also there's lots of other things to contend with. Your increased staff costs and all the rest of it. So you may be selling the beer, but you may not be getting the money that the headlines would suggest from it.
Right. Meanwhile, there's a discussion in the Daily Telegraph about life in the UK's smelliest village. They do talk about politics on the front page, and also Biden considers standing down, they say. The Sun also has their political stuff on the front page, as does City AM, and there we go. So, look, I mean, all excitement there. Pete, I'm going to come back to you in a second for some stories from the papers. However, let's turn our attention back to your calls.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
20 minutes past 6 of the time, going through the papers with pub landlord Pete Reeve. He's from the Woodman pub in Farnborough Village. Pete, I'm going to, I don't know, bring you into the conversation because we've had quite a lot of calls on electric motor vehicles and indeed sheds. So I can just, much as I would like to come and pull some pints, I guess I'm inviting you into my equivalent of the pub, where we can say good morning to Nigel, who is in London. Nigel, morning. Now, Pete, have you got a shed?
I have several sheds, and they're basically filled with junk.
Right, so you're not going to be entering into, because in the papers today, there's a rather splendid story which talks about garden cheers, they say, putting pubs among the shed of the year entries. I mean, how do you feel about people turning their sheds into pubs when they should be coming down to your gaff and going to the pub?
Well, yeah, this all started really during the lockdowns. Obviously, people couldn't come to me, and if they managed to walk on their own, I was closed. So they set up the pubs in their sheds at the bottom garden, and what a lovely way to spend time with friends. The problem is, the more time you're in your shed drinking your beer, you're not here in the pub, and it's one of the reasons why the pubs haven't recovered quite as well as we'd hoped after the COVID. Because everyone's with their own little group of friends in their garden shed, having a potter.
Well, exactly, having a little bit of a potter about. Talking of sheds, Lenny's in Ashford. Lenny?
Good morning, James.
Good morning, Lenny. So, what do you think about this? Mini bars, a garden kitchen, and a haven built out of a 1915 living van are all in the running for Shed of the Year. Only 20 finalists remain from the 160 who entered. Graham Doyle created Drovers Halt in Kent as part of his living van holiday let, upcycling materials to keep it sustainable.
Well, I would love to enter this pub Shed of the Year competition
Yes.
because in my sheds, I used to have a pub stage and a dance floor.
Right.
And what is still there is my full-size snooker table.
How big is this shed? It's not a shed, it's a warehouse.
Well, I had a complex which was on the side of my house, and I used to use it for the pub stage and the dance floor. I used to put a lot of functions on and raise lots of money for charities.
Oh, look at you. Well, that's wonderful. Well, that's marvellous.
Yeah, you'd be very surprised, James.
I'm always surprised, Lenny. So, well, I think it sounds like you're going to have to enter Shed of the Year then.
Yeah, we'll have to try and get an entry form.
Oh, I think you should. Lenny, are you going to join me from 1 o'clock this afternoon?
It would be a pleasure, James.
Always a pleasure, never a chore. Thank you so much for that. You see, get a full-size snooker table in the shed. Pete, I think Lenny's got a few lessons for you in terms of how to keep your sheds tidy and get rid of the junk.
Oh yeah, but even if we had a full-size snooker table in the pub, you'd have your one arm up in the air because we haven't quite got the space for a table and to get the queue in. But it's a nice thought.
I suppose it is. Meanwhile, I suppose, every so often I'm a sort of pub landlord on the basis of this club that I chair, and we have lots of beers and lagers and all that sort of thing. At this time of year, what's flying out the door? Is it more beer or is it more lager?
Lager's certainly our biggest seller. If we get a nice day, you want a nice, cold, refreshing drink. But we still do a reasonable amount of proper traditional car scale as well. So it's a reasonable mix. Lager takes the lead, though.
Meanwhile, back to stories from the papers today. According to the Metro, drivers are given a 4-word warning. What warnings have we been given?
Yeah, fill up quick, basically.
What?
Apparently, the price of your petrol and your diesel is going to go up any day.
Oh, get an electric car.
I hadn't seen it drop, but...
No.
Yeah, the wholesale prices have gone up, and that filters down to us. So an increase in our fuel is due at any moment, going from the late 140s back up to the 50s, apparently.
Oh, dear. Meanwhile, there's been a boom in vineyards. How many vineyards, Pete, do you think there are in the United Kingdom now?
There's actually more than you'd think. There's a couple of local ones in Kent near where we're based, but with the changing climate, English wine, although still expensive, is getting quite a popular drink now. So quite a few, I would imagine.
It is. Would you be surprised if I said that there's been a boom in vineyards and there are now more than 1,000 in the UK?
Okay, I wouldn't have said that many, but yeah, bring on the English wine.
87 new plantations were registered in 2023, bringing to a total of 1,030 as the country bucked the global decline in winemaking and drinking. So there you go. 9%. What is it? British vineyards now take up 4,209 hectares of land, a 9% increase in the year, covering the equivalent of 5,895 football pitches.
That's a lot of football.
Sales of UK sparkling wine jumped by 187% since 2018. Britain is now home to more than 90 grape varieties. Look at that. That's all excitement. Meanwhile, let's just talk very quickly and finally about a story in the Daily Star. Apparently, we got some hot weather on the way. Really?
Yeah, apparently 29 degrees is flaming July, although in a couple of the other papers, they're forecasting it being cold and damp for the rest of the month.
Oh.
It was interesting to see their map, though, of the heat wave that is going to hit us, because it did resemble other maps in other papers based on subjects that we can't talk about today.
Right, perfect. Well, then we look forward to that. So, just finally to you, Pete, if people want to find the Woodman pub in Farnborough Village in Orpington, Kent, I guess it's pretty obvious where you are. You're on the High Street.
Yep, there's just 2 pubs in Farnborough Village, 2 great pubs, the Change of Horses and ourselves, and traditional community wet-led pub. We do events, but the main thing is you come in, you have a drink, and you have a chat with whoever's in here, and we're always happy to chat to people.
Well, it looks like an absolutely glorious pub. Is food available?
Yeah, we do food every lunchtime. Your traditional pub grub, and we do the best we can with what we've got, and then we focus on atmosphere and talking to people.
I can't believe that Fred the dog has not made an appearance whilst we've been chatting.
Extremely good today.
Well done, Fred. Anyway, thank you very much indeed for joining us. I hope you have a very busy day. As you say, drinking station opposite the polling station. Those polling stations open at 7 o'clock this morning. Pete Reeve, landlord of the Woodman pub. Thank you.
Tonight is political party night on Talk.
Stay up all night with the UK's top team on the ultimate Talk election party all-nighter.
Sample a night of deep political vision and crucial constituency comment. Kicking off with Julia Hartley-Brewer, first past the polling stations from 10 p.m.
Followed by speculation, swings and surprises as the votes come in with me, Grand Mixer Mike Graham, in the nation's definitive anatomy of an election from 1 a.m.
Then, Ian Collins hits the decks back where he belongs, out on the terrace for a post-vote 4 a.m. poll party.
The Talk Ultimate Election Political Party All-Nighter.
Tonight from 10 p.m, racing through till dawn, election night is go on Talk.
Do you know, I'm quite looking forward to it. I haven't had an election in over 5 years.